Hey, good morning, everybody. Welcome to day 4 of our Whisper Challenge. We're in week 2, learning how to hear the voice of God. Hey, I want to jump right in today. We've been kind of talking about the second way that God speaks to us, and that's through a God dream. And what I've learned is there's actually some stages to God dreams. And we talked about it in the message Sunday that if it's one of the ways you can tell if your dream is really a God dream is that it'll test your character. And so today we're going to talk about this third stage of the dream, and that's difficulty. Every dream is going to encounter some difficult circumstances, some challenges that you have to overcome. And so we talked about, God first, he starts to work as a holy discontent, right? This thing inside of you that, man, somebody needs to do about it. That's the genesis of a dream. But then it moves into a delay, right? That's oftentimes there's this period where you're not seeing the dream happen. Good morning, everybody. Lots of you jumping on this morning. So great to see you. But then there's this inevitable season of difficulty. A few years ago, I got to took a little vacation and got to do some touring of wine country in Napa. And we toured a vineyard, and I was kind of surprised. They told us that actually the best wine is produced when the vine is stressed a little bit, that they actually, the vineyards, the wine, is produced that way, and that the vine actually thrives, listen to this, with rocky territory. And I thought, what a picture, right? There's a little bit of a stress, a little bit of a difficult, environment that actually brings out the best in the vine. And I think the same is true when it comes to a God dream, and it comes to our destiny in him. And so today I just want to talk about what does that look like? How do we push through that? Because we're all going to experience those. You might be in a season right now where you're facing some difficulty in the dream that you have, and and you're wondering, did I really hear God right? Because man, this dream is taking a long time, and it's seeming like there's a lot of obstacles in the way. I want us to look for just a minute at Nehemiah, because I love his story. I think it's one of the best case studies for how to push through and how to fight through seasons of difficulty in your dream. Listen to this in chapter 4. So you remember, we talked about it earlier in the week. Nehemiah had this dream from God to go home to his hometown, Jerusalem, and a pretty big dream to rebuild the walls around Jerusalem. But when he's there, he immediately starts to run into some difficulty. And there's these two guys, Sanballat and Tobiah. And the Bible says in Nehemiah chapter 4 that when they heard what they were doing, Sanballat was very angry. When he learned that they were rebuilding the wall, he flew into a rage, listen, and he mocked the Jews, saying in front of his friends and the other army officers, "What does this poor bunch of poor, feeble Jews think they're doing?" And so he just begins to ridicule and bring opposition. And opposition, I've found, can come from two places. The first is many times we get opposition from the outside, right? And there's a couple ways that can look. Often opposition from the outside, especially when it comes to a God dream, can come in the form of criticism. And this is what we see in this story, right? Like they start criticizing their dream and criticizing their ability. And I don't know, you're crazy. And I don't know if you've ever had somebody kind of just belittle your dream and hey, are you really, you're going to lead your family spiritually? You can't even control your temper. And who do you think you are? And you think God's going to use you in a big way? And they just start criticizing you left and right. You don't have the talents, you don't have the resources. That's a great dream, but fill in the blank. This is never going to work. The other way that we often face difficulty or opposition from the outside is through obstacles, right? Just stuff that gets in the way that's not working out the way that we hope to. Verse 7 of that same chapter, Nehemiah 4, said they made plans to come and fight against us. Listen to this last part, to throw us into confusion. Now, I think that's interesting. I believe that's always the enemy's end goal, right? That's really what he's trying to do when he throws obstacles and just things that aren't going right. What's he trying to do? He's trying to get you off your game. He's trying to throw you into some confusion and a lot of times get us to question what we're hearing from God. Many times when we don't see the results right away, or when we run into some obstacles, come on, I've been there, right? You start wondering, God, did I hear you right? I remember we planted the church, and it was a lot tougher than we thought. And in those first several months and several years, honestly, that question was in my heart. I knew what God had called us to do, but I had those doubts and that question, God, did I hear you right? Did I make a mistake? And that's often how this works. So Here's the other part. The last place where opposition will come from the outside is just plain old fear, right? The enemy will try to bring fear and intimidation. He says this. The enemy, it wasn't working against Nehemiah. So it says before they knew what's happening, this is what the enemy said: we're going to swoop down on them and kill them and end their work. Right, so they just flat out, hey, we're just going to threaten you now. We're coming to kill you. And the enemy doesn't fight fair. He'll mess with you. He'll try to bring intimidation and fear. And that, again, that could be several different forms in our life. It could be the fear of rejection. For me, a big one was fear of failure. It could be the fear of the future or uncertainty. I don't know what fear that you might need to overcome right now to move towards your God dream. But the enemy will work through fear. And the interesting thing about fear is that there's only two innate fears: the fear of falling and the fear of loud noises. Everything else in life, listen, is a learned behavior. Isn't that crazy? Every other fear that we have is something that we learned. The good news is if we learned it, we can unlearn it. And so those are the forms of a couple of forms of opposition that come from the outside. Let's look at what the kind of forms that comes from the inside. The first that we see in Nehemiah's story in verse 10 is just discouragement. Discouragement. It can be discouraging when you're going through a difficult season towards your God dream. And so this is what the people started to experience. Nehemiah 4:10, listen to this. It says, the people of Judah began to complain, and they said this: the workers are getting tired, and there's so much rubble. And they just basically said, this is taking way too long. And we're getting tired. We're getting tired of building this wall. And again, I don't know if you can relate. If you've ever been in that place of, man, I'm getting tired. I'm getting tired of praying, Pastor. I'm getting tired of believing. I'm getting tired of doing the right thing. I'm being tired of your job. I'm getting tired of being a parent. Just getting worn down. That's where they were at. And then the second one is from the inside is just self-doubt. Where we begin to actually doubt God's ability to work in us. And this is what they said in verse 10. The people said, we will never be able to build the walls by ourselves. And again, I relate to that. I know that I've heard that voice become too loud in my head at moments when I'm not tuned into the voice of God. And that voice that says, hey, you'll never be a success, or you'll never get out of debt, or you'll never graduate, right? You'll never achieve the dream. You'll never be the dad or the mom that your kids need. You'll never, whatever. That's self-doubt. All right, what's the way forward? Let's talk about how we work through seasons of difficulty. Because remember, the best wine comes from the vines that are stressed, right? Vines that are stressed produce the best wine. So here's what Nehemiah said. He told the people in verse 14, guys, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid of the enemy. And I just want to say that to somebody today. Whatever the enemy is using to intimidate you right now and get you to back off your God dream, it only means that you're getting closer to your destiny. Don't be afraid of the enemy. Listen to what he said. Remember who the Lord is, the great and glorious one. So that's the first one. Just remember who God is, right? And that's what worship is about. And that's why these times in the Word are so important. What is it doing? It's reminding ourselves of, man, there's a lot more going on than meets the eye, right? That really what's invisible is so much more real than what's visible and what I can see right now. And I want to challenge you this morning. If you're in that place, remember God. Remember what he's done for you. Remember the way that he's delivered you in the past. Remember his faithfulness to you. Remember your God who's great and glorious, Nehemiah said. Here's number 2. He told the people to remember what you're fighting for. Remember your why. What are you doing this for? I love it. Verse 14, he told the people, fight for your brothers, your sons, your daughters, your wives, and your homes. In other words, this is not just about you, man. There's a lot of other people that are going to be affected. Remember, your God dream is always bigger than you. So remember what you're fighting for. And often I come back to that as sort of something I hold on to is, man, this church and this dream that we have to plant 20 campuses across Acadiana and plant dream centers and release missionaries and make a difference in our community, in our nation, around the world. Guess what? It's so much bigger than me and you. This is a big God dream. We got to remember what we're fighting for. Remember what we're working for. Here's the third one. We got to keep on building. Keep on building. I love this in 17. Verse 17, it says, the laborers carried on their work, listen, with one hand supporting their load and the other hand holding a weapon. Wow, I love that. That's really cool. We got to keep on building. We have to learn how to fight off the enemy and those the doubts and all the loud noises and voices in our head. We got to learn to fight that off on one hand, but at the other hand, we got to keep building. We got to keep our eyes focused. We got to keep the vision in front of us. And I want to just again encourage you today. Keep on taking steps. We talk about that a lot at church. It's one of our things that we'll say over and over again is keep taking your next step. Really, growth is all about finding your next step and taking it. If you think about it, most people get stuck for one of two reasons. Either they don't know what their next step is, so I want to move forward, but I just don't know what to do, or we know what to do and we're just not doing it. And then some of you are there. You know, hey, I've got a next step and I already know what that is, and I need to start leading my family spiritually, or I need to start trusting God with my marriage, with my finances. I need to get connected with other people in a small group. Like you know the next step. You just need to do it. So let's keep building. And then lastly, Nehemiah said, hey, remember, you're not alone. We're doing this together. And he said, have every man and his helper stay in Jerusalem at night so they can serve as guards by night and workers by day. And let me encourage you again. That's why I love what we're doing through this 6-week growth challenge is we're doing it together. And it's one of the biggest benefits of having a church family is you never have to walk, you never have to face a difficult season, you never have to fight a battle by yourself because you weren't designed to do that. And a lot of times when we get in trouble and when we start to lose hope for the God dream, it's simply because we're by ourselves and we've let those voices get too loud in our heads. We're trying to navigate all of this on our own. And listen, just one conversation with the right person, just having a few people in our small group around us, praying, speaking faith in our life can make all the difference. I know this, I'm here today because of the right relationships. And so you got to know you're not doing this alone. You've got a church family. You've got people around you that believe in you and are believing and fighting and contending for that God dream right alongside with you. So I love this picture. Remember that if you're feeling stressed right now, if you're feeling like you're facing some difficulty in your God dream, understand number one, hey, this is normal, right? That doesn't mean anything's wrong. It probably means you're on the right path. You're getting a little closer to your God dream and your destiny. And just remember that God is doing something. He's crafting something in the middle of it that actually the best wine comes from stressed vines. And anytime you're in that place, really what it is an invitation. God is inviting you to come a little bit closer, come a little bit deeper with him. So let's do that today. Love you. We're going to continue to talk out this stages of dreams. We'll talk about the next one tomorrow as we wrap up our week. I've been enjoying it. Hope you've been getting a lot out of it. If this is helpful, share it. Let me know, again, your questions. Would love to just have this conversation, help you out any way we can. But I hope you're hearing God like never before. And we're going to have a great day today, and we'll join you tomorrow. Love you guys. Peace. Enjoy your Thursday.